Hey, everybody out there, Southside Jamaica Queens, and to the international hip hop community. Just making another blog. I was reminiscent on my early history and going to community center jams in Harlem at the Audubon Ballroom and jams at Bronx River Community Center and James Monroe High School and T Connection, Ecstasy Garage. Now, my homegirl, Spicy Sheriff, who moved to Bronx River Houses in 1976, said that we went to the T Connection. I went to so many parties, I can't remember a lot of them. She also said we went to jams at, what was it, 127 Park or 23 Park? Somewhere over there in the South Bronx. Like I said, it was so many jams we went to, I can't remember all the locations because it was something new every weekend. I do vividly recall going to park jams, a few in the South Bronx, and I definitely remember going to jams at James Monroe High School. My homegirl went to that high school. And Bronx River Community Center, that was like a regular for us. But I'm just making this audio blog just to say that, folks from Queens, we have to tell our own story. This is why I'm doing the Queens official hip hop timeline. Because although the term hip hop is native to Keith Cowboy, who was from the Bronx, and Lovebug Starsky, who's also from the Bronx but moved to Harlem, we were jamming in Queens. And, to say, oh, Queens wasn't doing hip hop, they were disco DJs, there's some falsity to those statements. The term hip hop hadn't been coined in 1973 when I saw my first two turntable DJ. That was the Genie, aka DJ Rob, at my house. Now, my house was like, central location in the community for house parties, get-togethers. I'm the youngest of 6 siblings, so most of the homeboys who were older than me that would go hang out in Harlem and the Bronx would bring the styles and the influence from around the city back to South Jamaica, Queens, to my living room. So, and this is like me at 7, 8, 9 years old. These guys were like 8 years older. And they would come through, suede fronts and pleat pants, double knit pants, Playboys, British Walkers, and I'm talking Perry Smith, who was one of the sons of Clarence 13X, who founded the Nation of Gods and Earths, and Wesley Perry, who was his homeboy that lived on 169th Street. Also, you had Sundance and Stardust, were 2 local homeboys. Sundance and my eldest brother, Pesa, were like some of the best freestyle dancers in our community. And when I say freestyle, they would burn people. Like when you dance and freestyle with someone and you just do these incredible dance moves, back then it was called burning. And that was a term that was used prior to b-boying and b-girling. So I'm just leaving this blog to say, though the cultures were different in Southside Jamaica, Queens, and the South Bronx and Harlem, wasn't that much space between us geographically. All it took me was 2 tokens to get from Southside Jamaica to Bronx River Houses in 1976. Go to the jam, you see what they're doing was not exactly what you were doing in terms of a lot of the break beats and a lot of the b-boying and the b-girling, but all it took is one day to learn, and you go back home Saturday, you're going to Fantasia, you're going to house parties, you're going to park jams, and you're showing your friends what you learned. That's how the culture evolved back in those days. So the falsity that, oh, Queens just had disco DJs. We wasn't dancing around like John Travolta. Southside Jamaica Queens is the first black middle class in New York City. Anything that was happening with black folks, we knew what was going down. We had cousins and friends and aunts and uncles in Harlem, in the Bronx, in Brooklyn. So many of us traveled all over the city. Our older homeboys at that time, this was, the early 70s, they were coming out of the whole gang warfare, or, you want to call them gangs, you want to call them street organizations. So moving around the city wasn't as easy as it became because brothers feared going into someone else's territory and, gang action taking place. But the brothers did travel. We didn't sit in one place. But, crews like Cypher Sounds, the Diablo Brothers, even our local DJs made a difference. The People's Choice, that was Chris Pendergrass, Tony Pendergrass, Laurie Pendergrass, had their own DJ setups. That Christmas of 1976, most of the homeboys in my community got 2 turntables and a mixer. Then a lot of them, their parents went on and bought them speakers, and they could jam in the backyard or jam in the front yard or do block parties. And the brothers that were serious went on and bought more equipment and did small school parks and park jams. But no one that I interviewed, and that's going from Disco Twins to Infinity Machine DJs to Cypher Sounds to the Disco Brothers Connections, who are all DJs from early 70s, said that they went to the Bronx and learned how to DJ. Of course, all of the boroughs influence one another, but I am telling the true history of Queens hip-hop. So I want y'all to be looking out for that official timeline that I will be exhibiting, and just learning from those who invented and created many of the styles in Southside Jamaica hip-hop. Once again, it's your girl, Professor Eva Marie King. I was there, and I'm telling y'all that in the Bronx, of course, they were doing it. When I went to Bronx River, they was killing it with Apache and all the break beats. But in South Jamaica, Queens, we wasn't sitting around doing anything. I went to the Bronx in 1976, that summer. I started going to jams at Bronx River Community Center. 1975, I was standing in St. Albans Park baseball field, and Cypher Sounds was cutting, mixing, and blending break beats, and their MC, Spank, was rhyming. Like, he rhymed for about an hour. And, the original DJ Cypher Sounds was mixing and cutting records. And I'm 9 years old, standing there trying to figure out what his break beats were, because I was determined to get me a sound system. But he had the break beats blacked out with the magic marker. Y'all know the deal. So that you couldn't see what break beats he had, so you couldn't go bite. For me, I won't get into all of the foolish arguing about what happened and what didn't happen, who did what. No one from South Jamaica, Queens went and learned 2 turntable DJing and how to blend break beats from Kool Herc or Africa Bambaataa. They probably were influenced at some point, but brothers didn't move around New York like that back in those days. It wasn't safe. So to say that the Universal Hip Hop Museum is the official record of hip hop, you can say that, but do you really know the history of all of the different neighborhoods in Queens? Hollis hip hop, how that started? Astoria hip hop, how that started? Queensbridge hip hop. It's not fair to leave Queens out and say, oh, we're Universal hip hop, we're in the Bronx, and we're just talking about what happened in the Bronx. And then you're talking about artists from Queens that are recording artists. No. So that's why we have the Southside Jamaica Queens Hip Hop Artists Museum and the Southside Jamaica Queens Hip Hop Artists Hall of Fame, because we cannot be left out. And you do a count today of the amount of B-girls, B-boys, fly guys, fly girls, graffiti artists, MCs and DJs that came out of South Jamaica alone is definitely more than any other town in the world. So I'm just telling y'all the truth. There's a reason why there's so many successful pioneers from Southside Jamaica, Queens, because we was doing it. And we can't just sit by and say, oh, the Bronx created hip hop. Yeah, y'all did. We didn't even use that term hip hop. Sure, but we were doing something else in Queens. It was originally called jamming, and that's what we were doing. Hip hop came along later on, as a term that was used in the Bronx. Then the media grabbed onto it, and that's what it became. More power to everybody in the Bronx. Keep doing what you're doing, but history is history, and I'm just telling it. Once again, New York City, it's your girl. Back in the day, it's MC Juicy E on 118th Avenue. I am Professor Eva Marie King. I'm on social media. Eva Marie King. EvaMarieKing. Southside, we outside. Queens get the money. Peace.